Hey guys, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Andre Seegers, and today we're joined by Derek Bittner to discuss the brand new New York Comic Con trailer for The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds, and everything else we've learned about the game since too. So let's get started. Alright Derek, so Nintendo just showed off a brand new Zelda trailer at New York Comic Con, as I just said. And, and they also showed off a little bit more of it in last week's Nintendo Direct, as well as with a, apparently, I guess, a presentation they had at New York Comic Con, where the game's director, Anuma, actually gave even more information about the game. So, since there's a lot to cover, I figured we'd just start talking about what all we've seen. Now, this latest trailer revealed a lot more about the story, basically, or how the game's kind of being set up. Mm-hmm. And we can see they're really drawing the Link to the Past comparisons out to the forefront, with how we see, Link, trading the 3 pendants for the Master Sword again, and and how he ventures into the Dark World, assumingly after that. Mm-hmm. So, what's your initial impression so far of of the story that we have seen?
Well, I tell you what, Nintendo's been on a roll these past few days with their trailers, because we said before how the Super Mario 3D World trailer was just really pumped us up for the game, and I'm feeling the same way about this new trailer, because
yeah, absolutely.
This story seems both familiar, but there's a lot of twists in here that make me very interested in it. Because you mentioned, of course, the 3 pendants, and to get the Master Sword, which is still a little weird because it was supposed to be sealed forever, but doesn't seem to be any time travel like you thought.
Well, not that. I mean, as I theorized.
Theorized.
I just threw it out there. I didn't think it was actually going to happen.
I'm guessing Nintendo's just taking forever as a relative term here.
Yes, exactly.
This is probably the more likely excuse. But yeah, so you get the 3 pendants, get the Master Sword. You can see Link breaking into the Hyrule Castle in order to save Zelda. Before that, you saw him confronting this new villain with just a regular sword, seeing the villain kidnapping presumably a sage's daughter or something like that, another descendant of them, capturing them within a painting. Link, of course, doing all that whole thing, confronting this, missing rescuing Zelda, this time from a painting, and presumably then going into the Dark World, or as we now know it, Lorule. So that's a very similar setup, hitting beats almost exactly, except with a more painting approach to the events rather than completely separate worlds and magic in order to get Zelda away and just transform away. But there are a lot of interesting details.
Well, that's exactly it, because for how similar it is, the things that make it different are what, it really stands out because of them.
Exactly, and I think, of course, we can agree on the biggest one being Hilda.
Right.
Which seems to be the Lorule version of Zelda. And we still don't know a whole lot about her, just that she has need of Link in order to try to presumably save her world from this new villain, which, to be honest, looks like a female version of Ganondorf.
She does, and you mentioned even her laugh seems similar. You mentioned before.
The laugh is similar, but just very high pitched.
Right.
And so much more, of course, feminine rather than Ganondorf's more manly voice. The other thing with this female villain, she also sort of seems to take the role of Agahnim, or how the heck did you pronounce his name?
Oh God, I have never figured that out. The wizard from A Link to the Past.
Yeah, Agahnim, or whatever. Sorry, guys.
Agahnim, I have no idea. Dude.
Yeah.
Go with it.
But takes his role, but also seems to be a bit more prominent than him, almost. I definitely feel more of a threat from her than I did from Link to the Past's wizard.
Well, yeah, he was more passive in A Link to the... I mean, he didn't play a huge role in the game. You only saw him in the intro of the game, and then whenever you encountered him, basically. Mm-hmm. Whereas this time, we can see it looks like you'll... based on the trailer, it seems you might be encountering her. Maybe not more often, but she does seem to be playing a more prominent role.
Yeah, like maybe the same. Maybe you meet her at the same points, right. But she does a bit more during those points.
Yeah, each encounter seems to have a little bit more meat to it.
Yeah, exactly. We get to see her in the process of kidnapping a sage's daughter, presumably.
So you don't think so? Do you so what? So now you're relating her to the wizard.
Yes.
But you mentioned that she also seems similar to Ganon. So
because
where
of
do you think
appearance. Yeah.
Right. So where do you think she might fall on this? Do you think?
I think she's closer to wizard because at another point in the trailer we see that Link facing up against this huge creature with dark eyes in the dark, and it's a pure blackness, and we of course have no idea who it is. But this is the timeline where Ganon has never really appeared in a human form.
Right.
It's always been his more pig-like form, and that seems to match it pretty well. And in fact, that might be the most threatening I've seen Ganon since the end of Ocarina of Time.
Although now that I think about it, it's funny you mentioned that because I believe the wizard in A Link to the Past actually was Ganon. I remember when you defeated him, a bat appeared and flew off, and then that's what became Ganon.
She seems to take a bit more of an interesting role than the wizard, but yeah, I'm very curious to see what that dark figure was. Because you saw this just really threatening eyes, Link of course being worried about seeing him. It was an oddly threatening moment.
It was, and I mean, if we hadn't seen her at this point in the trailer, we would assume that would be Ganon.
Yes, and I still think that's Ganon, because I don't think...
Right.
The only thing I can think of is that this female Ganon, for lack of a better word, is the low-rule version of Ganon. Like how we were talking about earlier, how there's going to be alternate versions of each character. Well, Hilda's the other world version of Zelda, and now we have this female wizard for Ganon. So all it leaves the question is Link really?
So you don't think this wizard could just be? It could be like the Ganon's alter ego, like Aghanim or whatever it was in A Link to the Past.
It's possible, but I think they'll change it up enough that they don't want. I know they're copying a lot of story beats, but I don't think they want to do every story beat the same.
Right. Well, I think I actually know who she is.
Oh, really?
Because we saw her turn, that princess or whatever into a painting. Mm-hmm. She's obviously King Boo.
Obviously. Oh, why didn't I see this before?
So no, that actually is a kind of a whole interesting story thread by itself. Clearly paintings are playing a pretty big role in the game, like even more than we thought originally. Mm-hmm. Because we obviously knew that Link could turn into a painting, obviously, and we now have confirmation that it's a bracelet that gives him that power. But beyond that, we see the wizard turning everyone else into a painting as well, including Zelda.
Yeah, including Zelda. So it's sort of like, okay, where is this going to go? Why a painting is pretty much the reason. I mean, yeah, they can't really struggle or escape, as Mario has proven.
Yeah, right.
But still, why paintings? There probably some other reason to it, I would assume.
Yeah, I just wonder what that could be. It does seem like, though, that the paintings, based on Hilda talking to Zelda, it seems like the characters may still be self-aware, even when in painting form. I guess kind of, again, like Mario in Luigi's Mansion.
You might be right about that, but I think that's also just, how when you're by yourself and you have an object or something that you talk to, I think that might also be the case. But this scene does bring up two very interesting story points as well. One, we saw this female wizard take Zelda's painting from Hyrule. So why does Hilda have the painting all of a sudden?
Right. So what happened between those 2 points?
Exactly. Why is she talking to it? It almost makes her seem. It makes you wonder if she's a threat or not. But of course, in the Nintendo Direct trailer, she's begging Link for help, so you're not quite sure. It's actually a very well done case of, is this an ally or not? And the other interesting thing she says is, of course, she has some dialogue during this, is that Low Rule was once as nice as Hyrule, was so promising, but now they have need of your Link, referring to Zelda's Link. So it could be just referring to this Zelda's Link, that whole connection, or it could be that Low Rule's version of Link essentially failed.
That sucks for that Link, if that's the case.
Yeah.
So I wonder, could this help reconcile the timeline? Because isn't one of the timelines where Link fails, and that's what splits off? Yes,
but it doesn't quite work in this case because this is far down the Link fails timeline, and there's still stuff afterward that's still declared separate. So there hasn't been that one game that brings them all back to one point.
Right. Okay.
So I still think this will keep the timelines separate. This is very much, of course, in the Link to the Past timeline.
Right. So now we finally, as you mentioned, learned the name of this new world, and that is Lorule. Which, apparently I haven't read the comments in our trailer or for the trailer that we posted yet, but as you mentioned to me, a lot of people were ragging on it. When I first heard it, I guess I can see how people might think it's cheesy. I think it's kind of clever,
It is kind of. I'm a fan of wordplay.
Yeah, exactly. And we have this name we've been playing. We've had. In our contest for almost 30 years now, Hyrule. And so it's kind of seeing them, turn on its head and make it Lorule. Even if I can, see how some people, I guess it's kind of like unobtainium in Avatar.
Yeah,
right.
It's cheesy in a way.
But, however, you mentioned that someone in our comments had a really good theory on what else this name could hint at, right?
Yes, we have Omri GXO 197. Saying that I find the name Lorule kind of funny because I'm from Israel, and Lo means no in Hebrew, so this name is actually not Hyrule. How brilliant is that?
That makes so much sense. It's really cool. It just works almost too well, actually.
Seriously, it makes me wonder. It's like, okay, Amr GXO, what does Hi mean in Hebrew?
That'd be interesting if it actually correlates in any way.
Yeah.
Probably not, but
probably not.
But it doesn't even need to, because just not being Hyrule tells you all you need to know, really.
Exactly. It's such a brilliant move, and it makes you wonder if did Nintendo know this, or is it just a lucky coincidence?
Right. No, it still brings up the question of why does this world look so much like the Dark World? It's practically identical in that they have skulls all over the place. The terrain looks very similar. So is this just, is it still kind of the Dark World, just, renamed? Or is it really its own complete thing?
Yeah, my personal theory is that this is Ganon's influence or the wizard's influence. Because we saw what happens to a world when Ganon has power. And if this world is truly in trouble and Ganon is in power, well, there's the obvious effects. He knows what he likes and he's doing it again.
Right.
But that's about my only theory to what it is. I'd like to think this is a completely new world. Like, this isn't the sacred, corrupted version of the Sacred Realm. And that Lorule is completely different. But I guess we'll see.
I'm not sure where they're going with it. I kind of want it to be this. I'm not. Actually, I don't even know. I really don't know. I feel like it's kind of weird that there are like 3 worlds, 2 of which look practically identical. Two counter versions of Hyrule, but both of which are basically the same thing as far as we can tell so far.
Yeah. Well, who knows what the Sacred Realm looks like once good has gone through it again.
Right. That's exactly it. So yeah, that's basically all we know about the story, and I'm sure we'll go even more in depth into it with our analysis. Even though we did cover a lot of it here. So now something else that we not from this trailer, back in the Nintendo Direct footage, we learned even more about how this game's going to be set up, and how exactly the item store plays into it all. And it sounds like this game's taking a far more open-ended structure to the gameplay, in that it sounds like you can basically do anything. You basically rent these items, or you can buy the items from the store, and you can then, and those items dictate, which dungeons you can go explore. And that's something we haven't seen in a long time in the Zelda game. I mean, not even at all to this extent,
I don't think we've ever seen something like this.
Well, yeah, we've never seen something like this with a central store they can get items from. But the first Zelda was, as far as I know, completely open-ended, and that you could go to any temple you wanted. I'm pretty sure.
Well, except that the challenge was a lot higher for of course, the higher levels.
Right, exactly. But I think you can still do any temple. I don't think there wasn't a linear structure to that game.
Yeah.
And even the Link to the Past, as I mentioned in one of the analyses, had a was kind of open-ended too, in that I think the Dark World structure, or Dark World temples, many of them could be explored in any order. So it's cool to see them actually really running with that concept in this game, and actually building it around this new store where you'll be getting those items from.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you think? What do you think of that structure?
I think it's an interesting structure. It makes it, it really. It's like I'm curious to see how they're going to do it, because backtracking might, this might increase backtracking even more so, or you can just grab one item and go do everything you need to do with that item and then trade it in and get the next item. I don't quite know how it's going to get set up, but I like the idea that they decided, like, we're going to really change the formula. So it makes me wonder, are you still going to find item? I guess, according to the whole item thing that you saw before, where you saw that we have like 30 items, you're still going to be finding new items in the dungeons. It's just that the traversal items are found in this store and have a direct effect about what you can find in the overworld and what dungeons you can take on.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how they're going to do that. Because I think, I believe there were 20 inventory slots, and I think in the store we see something like
about 10.
12 of them.
Yeah, about 10 or 12.
10 or 12. So that does leave several things open, but of course it could be non-essential quest items like bottles and. Although I guess bottles only take up one of the inventory slots. Mm-hmm. I think I forget. I have to go back and watch the analysis. But yeah, there is room for that. So, I mean, I like the idea of having a more open Zelda. Like, I'm kind of tired of having the, basically a complete straight line through the game where your next destinations, you always have to hit the destinations in order. Mm-hmm. So I like what they're doing here. I'm not entirely sure I love the concept of having it being based around a store. No, of course, I haven't played this, so it may be awesome. But the whole idea of tying it to the currency seems weird to me. Because now, as I mentioned, you either rent or buy the items. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it might take away some of the reward of getting an item. You know what I mean? Like, before, whenever you would come across an item, it's like, oh, sweet, I worked up to this point, and now I can, this is my reward, and now I can do other things with it.
Yeah.
But now it's just like you're going around, harvesting rupees, basically, in order to get these items. And the director said today as well that rupees would be more plentiful than they've ever been before. I'm just curious how that's going to affect how that's all going to feel and play out.
The thing I wonder with this, if you said you can both rent and buy,
correct?
My guess is that it shows in the trailer the renter's fee for I think it was the hammer is 20 rupees,
which is that's nothing.
That is nothing.
That's cheap.
However, I wonder if it's based on like you lose 20 rupees for the amount of time, like a certain amount of time, 20 rupees are constantly leaving your inventory. So the buy option is insanely expensive, so you can rent it to get through the dungeon, but you're constantly losing rupees as you're using it. And that's where I see the balance coming in with that sort of system.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I don't know if that's what they're going to do, just because the director has said before, or it might have been even in that direct. Yeah, you can rent it, for cheap, and then you can buy it permanently for a much higher price. Mm-hmm. So I feel like they're constantly, deducting that fee from you, or if there's some kind of, like rental period fee for that could potentially, end up costing you more than just buying it outright. I feel like one of the limitations maybe you can only rent a single item at a time, and maybe some temples require more than just that item. So if that's the case, you're gonna have to buy items in order to have multiple weapons on hand.
That could also be the case, because from that picture we saw the one item just have a little picture on it, so presumably Link had that item.
Oh, that's a good one. That very well could be. Yeah, maybe that's the item he already rented. Mm-hmm. Or I guess even it could have been when he bought it as well. So I have no idea how that's exactly going to work. I'm curious to find out. I'm a little bit suspect in how it might affect the game, but as I said before, I'm all for innovation. Innovation doesn't always work out. So I do like that they are doing something new here.
It's nice to see them doing, like, with so much being reused from A Link to the Past.
Right.
You want to see the new, and to see them take such a drastic change with the gameplay itself. That makes me more excited for this game.
Yeah, so, I mentioned, I think, in our first discussion on this game, which was some months ago, that, I loved, revisiting, I love it whenever they create a world they've explored before in a new game, but update it. So, as examples, like in Banjo-Tooie, when you revisit, Spiral Mountain, it's the same, and yet it's still different. And, it's cool how your knowledge kind of works against you, or how you can discover new things in the same environment. So I really do like what they're doing here, where it's you're exploring essentially the same world plus a very similar dark world, or low rule.
Yeah.
But they are switching it up enough that to me it looks super interesting. Like, it's engaging both your sense of nostalgia, as well as, you know, offering something new on top of that. And
yeah, absolutely.
Really, like, even just going between worlds is different in how you now use your painting power, you know, instead of finding portals or using the magic mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just really excited by. This new trailer just makes it look awesome.
Exactly. Even with the painting powers, we saw a new use for it, like going behind that little grate and then popping forward, so you can push the grate down over that gap. Like we were. I remember also from the previous discussion we were talking about what are we going to run out of uses for this painting power? But no, right. Every time we see a new trailer, there's something just slightly different that they're doing with it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. I noticed that as well. Yeah, with him knocking the staircase or the walkway over, and it got me thinking how else they could, you know, utilize that power. And I'm sure there's other uses for it that I can't even think of. Would never occur to me that you could knock things over.
Yeah,
when you're resting against a wall. Yeah, so I'm more stoked than ever for this game.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it just looks fantastic. And the more I see of it, the more I want to play it. Even if I do have, you know, a few reservations here and there, I really like everything I see. Even the art style. My only slight complaint so far is I like the original artwork better that they showed off, you know, before they changed it. You know, with Link standing in front of the wall. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Well, they changed his design slightly.
Right, that original artwork looked more reminiscent of the artwork you saw for Link to the Past, or, you know, those other Zelda games of that era. And now it looks, you know, closer, you know, in line like Toon Link or something. Not to the same degree.
Yeah, no, definitely not to the same degree, but more cartoony. Right. And I don't mind it. I like the style of the old artwork, but it definitely tells you that this is a brand new Link. Because as soon as I saw that Link, I thought
it looked like
they're bringing back Link from, you know, Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, Oracle of Ages and Seasons. It's the same Link. With this new Link, it is very definitely a brand new Link.
All right, do you have any final thoughts at all, Derek, or anything we haven't covered yet?
No, I don't believe so. I just very surprised to see Nintendo release two completely different trailers, so close to one another. Love them both, but this new story trailer definitely has me much more intrigued for what the game has to offer.
Yeah, it definitely kicks it up a notch, and I'm excited to see what all they plan to do with this. All right, well, thanks guys for watching our Zelda discussion, and thanks for joining me, Derek, on it. If you like this video, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. There are links in the description below that you can easily click. We post all kinds of things there. And of course, keep an eye on GameXplain.com for more on this game and other things gaming as well. Alright, thanks guys. Bye.